Hey, Dylan Fyffe here. Welcome to Fyffe Points, and I got a special guest today. We're going to do a great interview with Chandler, Jonathan Chandler, head coach over at Catholic. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Thank you for having me here today.
Hey, man. Listen, you came in about a year ago, maybe two. The Pike Road, and you became offensive coordinator. You came from Opelika before that,
and then I was at Wetumpka before I came to Pike Road.
Yeah. Oh wow, yeah. And you did Wetumpka a lot, but mainly Troy is where you went, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So after I graduated high school, 2006, had an opportunity to go play at Troy. Had a different path than what most have. My freshman year at Troy in 2006, I was the backup quarterback. Played a little bit and served as the backup, and then I actually redshirted my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So the 2007 season, I was a redshirt. Most people will redshirt that first year.
Yeah.
So we had a quarterback, Omar Hogebook. Was all Sun Belt Conference player, an awesome guy, but he was a JUCO product. So his senior year was 2007. So it was really setting up for the spring of 08 to kind of be the quarterback battle for all the new guys that came in. And it's a very unique story. Neil Brown had taken over for Tony Franklin as the offensive coordinator at Troy. And we had a 5-way quarterback battle in the spring of 08. And had one guy left, one got hurt, so it was down to 3. And Coach Brown called me in. He said, "Hey, JC, we know you're a Troy guy, and it's probably looking like you're not going to win this quarterback battle. We're going to give you some options. If you want to transfer, we'll help you find somewhere. You can move positions, or you can stick it out. Just be the backup quarterback. Take the day off, go talk to your parents, come up with a plan, come back to me tomorrow, let me know what you decide." So immediately went back to my dorm, called my dad. All the emotions went through, and I just remember my dad, which is just the way that I was raised. He said, "Well, it sounds like you're going to go back in there and tell coach you're going to move to another position because you're not going anywhere because you committed to playing at Troy." And I said, "Yes, sir." And that's exactly what I did. So I went back into the football office. Coach Brown was surprised to see me. I mean, like an hour had passed. And he's like, "Decisions made so quick?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to help this team. I'm a Troy guy. I love Troy." I said, "I'm open and willing to play, whatever." And so ended up moving to receiver, played a good bit. Through the years, had some quarterbacks that got hurt, moved back to quarterback. Anyways, by my senior year, was in the rotation for receiver and was also the backup quarterback. But say all that to say is that's ultimately what I feel like it got me into coaching. I was exposed and played different positions, played on special teams. And really helped me figure out, early on. I know kids today have such a hard time with just figuring out, number one, what the purpose is in life. Number two, what the Lord is planning for them. And I knew early on that I wanted to be a teacher and a coach at the high school level.
Yeah.
And by playing different positions and being a selfless person in college, just because of the experiences that I was dealt with, figured it out early on that, hey, high school coaching and serving the youth and being a teacher is what I needed to do. It's what the Lord's plan was for me. So was awarded an opportunity after my playing time was, wrapped up at Troy to be a grad assistant coach. So I stayed in Troy in 2011 and 2012 as a grad assistant coach on the offensive side of the ball. And then went up to the American Football Coaches Association, very green, resume in hand, and actually bumped into the head coach at Opelika, Brian Blackman, who was my offensive coordinator when I was in high school at Opelika. And he said, "Hey, let's go get dinner. I've got a physical education teaching spot open. Want to hire you."
Yeah.
And, rest is history.
Wow.
So here we are.
So that transition, though, from quarterback to wide receiver, I mean, it's not easy to be told that you have to, switch positions a lot of times. I mean, did you see yourself being that quarterback at Troy?
Well, it's not easy in today's time. I think most people would say, "Oh, I'm out. I'm transferring. I want to play a quarterback." But I had always kind of grown up, playing football outside, playing with the boys, and, always kind of just felt like I was just an athlete, and played quarterback growing up, played other positions. So, moving to a receiver to me was a little bit of pressure off my shoulders. But I knew that probably from a skill set standpoint, there was a lot that I had to learn, especially at the college level. I mean, you're playing with elite wide receivers, and I was not elite by any means. Average at best, but was able to really use what I knew from the head standpoint, from the knowledge of playing quarterback. I knew what he was looking for. I knew when the receivers needed to be open. Knew kind of how to, some of the techniques that receivers could use to get themselves to put them in position. So really use the things that I had, the knowledge from playing quarterback to help me play receiver. And then even going back to playing quarterback, I knew what the receivers were going through. I knew things that defensive backs would do to disrupt timing. And so I think hand in hand, both of those really helped.
Wow. So in that transition, it was more of the lines of hey, I'm willing to do whatever I can, coach.
Yeah.
To do what I can to sacrifice, my pride, my ego, my hubris to just play this position because it's just football.
Right.
It's all, honestly, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's, you're willing to do everything. It's kind of like almost in a way basketball. In basketball, if you're a guard and you're making all the great shots, what do you need to do if you're trying to step up to play forward on the defensive end?
Yeah.
And the defensive end of that aspect is like, you're going to have to work your tail off to like cover up the middle because you could play on the outside line. But if you're playing in that middle, you're playing big man ball.
Right.
And you're willing to sacrifice your body just to catch a foul or to get some hands thrown at you.
That's exactly right. I think some of the best advice that I ever received early on, and I understood it, was to always check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Your ego and set your pride aside. And again, in 2025, that's so hard to do. Through the all about me social media world and promoting yourself. You can even we could have another podcast about name, image, and likeness. What you're doing to promote yourself. A lot of people are gaining a lot of money off of that, financial, but I think it all comes back to just the personal pride and ego. And again, I don't feel like I have that. I coach what I call the greatest team sport in America, where all 11 people have to be on the same page. And like your reference to basketball, I mean, there's times that, one person can be a star on the football team, but it's because the other 10 people on the field were doing their job.
Well, I mean, you said name, likeness, and, just brand, title.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to think about that because when I went to Lee back in the day, we were lucky enough to even have a team picture. Right. Because you had like a low budget, just whatever it is. Like the parents weren't willing to spend that kind of money, you know? And the mindset is that, no, we're here to just play a sport. Now we take a look at today's world. It's all about like, I've never seen so many high school, even middle schoolers taking so many photos where they're just kind of like, it's profile.
Media days, a 2-day process.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, we just posted to social media this morning something as simple as the colors that we're wearing tomorrow night for our game. It has a sponsor on it.
Yeah.
So gaining those sponsors. But that's, again, it's the social media world. That's the way to advertise in today's time. And if you've got a support system that's willing to help out and throw their sponsorship on something to help with your funds that you have for your season, and help with your budget, then why not take advantage of it? Yeah.
Well, do you think it's actually affecting a lot of kids' mentality right now about what they're expecting, because they have this expectation of like, I'm a football player, and one like weighs like $120 plus water. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not exactly there yet until he's going to be like at least a junior or a senior in high school. But like, do you think it's affecting these high schoolers in a way?
Yes, I do think it's affecting them. And maybe you could even argue that it's affecting them at a younger age.
Yeah.
What's being affected, I think development is being affected. You may weigh 120 pounds in the 9th grade. You may not be getting the attention that a couple of your other teammates are getting, as they're going through their processes, and you may stop playing football. You may stop playing any sport, really. And you may just be a late bloomer. I believe in everything that I say. I'm a product of those things, but even with my 2 daughters, we believe in them being multi-sport athletes as they grow up, exposing them to different things. You never know, that they may find something that they love and enjoy. But I think exposing younger kids to different things throughout life will prepare them for what's to come, right? So, instead of just focusing on one thing, you could deal with burnout, or you could deal with, it may not be what they love once they get to a certain age. But again, I think you set them up for failure once you get to that point. And back to the point of, kids being late bloomers. You have kids walk in the hallway, they may hit a growth spurt their 10th grade year, their 11th grade year, wish they would have stuck it out. But then again, you miss that development stage. If they would have just stuck it out their 9th and 10th grade year, their 11th grade year, they could have had an opportunity.
Yeah, so, I mean, the opportunity is there for them to grow. I feel like the support system's actually a lot better now in today's world than it was back in the day. I think a lot of mentality and mental health goes a long way for a coach and a student, because I don't think if you take a look 10 plus 15 years ago, Nick Saban was criticized for yelling at his players, right? But in reality, what a lot of people didn't realize is that he had a passion. He cared about those kids. And the reason why is because he had accountability on them.
Right.
And the accountability as a coach is you're supposed to help somebody realize their potential, who they are, of what you see in them.
Yeah.
And that's why the passion's there.
That's right.
And do you think, like, in today's world, like, even for you being a head coach, you have to be, over everybody. You have to be over the coaches who have their wives and their kids and the parents and even the kids itself. Like, you're coaching them to raise up the B-men. I mean, what is that looking like?
Well, I think all coaches are different. Some may be yellers and some may be the soft-spoken type. Some are micromanagers. Some see the whole picture with everything. So it's really just figuring out what fits best for you.
Yeah.
Everybody looks at Nick Saban because he's been very successful. When the camera's rolling, he's yelling, but what is he doing behind the scenes, people that don't see? And I think you kind of hit it on the head, holding people accountable, setting true standards. Really for us with our football team, we're very young. We're playing a lot of kids that are, younger players. They've not had experience with varsity football before, and they're having mistakes that they're having to learn from those mistakes. Those mistakes may come on Friday night in a big-time game when somebody needs to make a play.
Yeah.
But having a true understanding and seeing the long-term plan that's there in building a football program is the only way that they're going to learn is if they get in there on the action and make those plays. They may make a good play. They may make a bad play. But the most important thing is making sure that they learn from that play. We've really been preaching to our team since I've been there that they're going to be exposed to something that they've never been exposed before for this 2025 football season.
Yeah.
That may look like, if you look at the scoreboard may not be quite as lopsided as what the people at Catholic have been accustomed to in the past, closer games. And so, but pulling from that and showing the kids real life examples, because again, I believe in being real with them, that they're going to be in some tight games and they got to understand and learn how to fight. Well, where can you apply that to life? Well, it may come a time when you got two little ones sitting over there and your bank account is sitting negative and you got to figure out a way to fight and make it happen. Whether that's going out and getting another job, or making sacrifices in areas that you've never had to make sacrifices for. But you've never learned and experienced those things until you get in a situation that you could say it is adversity. You could say it's a negative time. You gotta figure out a way to fight and get out of it, because you can't just quit. And I believe in gaining experience through going through hard times together in a team setting. But again, I think it's all about the type of person that you are. Again, every coach is different, and seeing those things. And then also, we're only guaranteed 10 opportunities or 10 weeks throughout the football season where people can see a product on Friday nights.
Yeah.
We're making sure that the other 42 weeks out of a whole year that we're taking advantage of that time too, exposing them to different areas where, they may want to be a lawyer, they may want to be a policeman or a fireman one day, they may want to be a teacher. So having certain people come in and share with our team, and that way they're not always hearing the head coach's voice at that time. And then also, really with the way that we practice during the year, we go pretty hard on Mondays and Tuesdays. We implement the old Tony Dungy rule. You got to get everything in 2 days. If you can't get it in 2 days, then you don't need it. Yeah. And then Wednesday's kind of our recovery day. So Wednesday we'll do a walkthrough Wednesday morning, and then we have an ice bath, kind of a recovery time Wednesday afternoon, and everybody's kicked out of our building at 4:30.
Yeah.
So that gives our coaches an opportunity to go home, spend time with their families.
Yeah.
It's kind of family date night at my house, if you will.
Yeah.
And then Thursdays, we'll have another walkthrough Thursday morning and have a fast practice on Thursday afternoon. So it's a little bit non-traditional practice, layout, but there's some science behind it as well.
Yeah.
Refiring the central nervous system after you recovered on Wednesday, and that a way that they can peak and get back to peak mode on Friday night at 7:00.
So, say a practice happens, right? And it's been a frustrating time, and for you, you're not much of a yeller. I've never seen you being a yeller.
I live at home with 3 people that like to yell. So
I've met Tiff. I've worked with Tiff, right? But seeing you on the sideline, you're the most chill guy on the sideline, honestly. It's just a moment for you that you were just like, I'm chill during this time, right? But for a coach, like say you were frustrated and then you have to make that snap transition to go at home because you have 2 daughters and you have a wife, right? They may be loud at home, but in reality, how do you switch that flip? Like,
I don't know. My wife always tells me that I don't show my emotions. That's something that I need to work on.
Right.
Again, I've always been that type of person.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. It's what you're getting out of me.
Yeah.
But there is a point in time and place, whether that's in a classroom setting or in practice or even at home, to where you're putting your foot down.
Yeah.
But your team feeds off of that. They see that person throughout the whole year. And I don't think it's anything that's kind of dog and pony show where you got to show your tail on Friday nights on the sidelines to get something out of your players and out of your team.
Yeah.
They know who their head coach is, and they know what the standards and expectations are. And even at home, we have, we don't do it every night probably as much as we should, but we have certain things in place to where the first 5 minutes, as soon as I get home, put my bags down, and I have to go in and ask my family how they're doing.
Yeah.
I make sure that I'm not going home and not checking my phone or checking my computer or watching huddle film, being very intentional about our time that we spend with each other, because our family has a crazy schedule.
Yeah.
Wife works in the evenings, kids are, afternoon activities and all the things. So when we do have time that we spend at home, we're making sure that we're very intentional with that time.
Yeah.
The same thing with, our football team. We have our wives and our families come up and spend time with us at school, spend time with us at practice. They come and serve our team. They serve our breakfast on Thursday mornings. And so that gives our football team another chance to see me as somebody besides the head football coach. They get to see me be a father. They get to see me be a husband. And the realization of it is a lot of, the kids on our football team or other football teams, they may not have a dad that's always at home. They may not have a dad that's at home anytime. They may not have a mom that's at home. She may be working 2 jobs. So you kind of factor all those things in. And what are other ways that I can affect today's youth through our football team or through the game of football to help make them better husbands and fathers and contributors in society for years to come?
Yeah. That's a very important thing, because you're setting the example, and it's an accountability on yourself.
Right.
When you walk in and you spend that time with them, it's a sacrificial thing, right?
Yeah.
When you got married to Tiff, that was the thing that you said, is that we're going to work this out together, but I'm dying to myself because I want to serve you. Right. And you made a commitment to serving these young kids as well, because you want to help them grow like no other, That's just one of the things. Is that something that you're trying to teach these young men, like how to do?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still a quote from, head coach Bear Woods over at Wetumpka High School. We were college roommates. One thing that he always used to say is that everything that we do has nothing to do with football, but it has everything to do with football. Football's kind of our vessel or our traveling piece to teach these life lessons, and again, to help mold better young men for the future. And it's a sport that we all love, but we have what we call, principles versus feelings.
Yeah.
Feelings could be good, happy, and in between. Feelings could be bad. Feelings are always up and down, but your principles they're concrete. Yeah. They're your foundation. So when things are going good, you got to make sure you stay level-headed.
Yeah.
That's being humble. It's humility.
Yeah. When
things are going bad, are you going to let that bad situation affect you at that point in time and for times to come? No, you're going to stay firm to your foundation, your principles.
Yeah.
So again, just making sure that we preach those every single day, even in adverse situations or losing a game, starting a season 1-3.
Yeah.
Things are not as bad as they seem.
Yeah.
We apart from preaching that, John 13:7, you may not know now, but later you will understand. You may not know why we started the year 1-3. But later you'll understand the experiences that the Lord has put in front of us, and what can you learn from that.
Yeah. Well, not to, hone in on the 1-3 at the moment, but this is your first year being head coach, right? Yeah. And it's going to have its challenges. Are you going through something right now where you're trying to figure it out, like, at the same time, or are you enjoying the journey, like the experience?
Well, I would say we're completely enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd like to be 3-1 and 4-0 and not having to come up and find different words to continue. But our locker room has got such great leadership that there's words that I don't even have to think of or say. They're already coming out of the mouth of our senior leaders, our junior leaders. Yeah. Sophomores and freshmen have a voice too. But I think we're experiencing the things that we're experiencing because of what we've been preaching the whole time. We gotta make sure that we understand that we're going to be in close games, which we've had a lead in all 3 losses, with the exception of one game. We were tied at halftime, and we're just not finding a way to finish off and win games in the fourth quarter. So what does that mean? That means our fourth quarter program in the off season needs to be pretty strenuous. We need to figure out how to fight within a football game. And taking those moments, and we don't look at them as a loss. We look at them as a learning moment. Yeah. And somewhere down the line, we understand and we believe that those times are going to help us. Could be in a playoff game. Could be in a game that determines in making the playoffs. Could be in a big region matchup that determines whether you travel, the first round of the playoffs, or you play at home. So we'll be experienced in all those situations. And again, the young guys that are on our team that are inexperienced to varsity football, they're gaining those experiences. We understand too, as they get a year older, 2 years older, and they're playing their senior year, that they'll be better prepared.
Yeah. Well, regardless of the first year, this is a great experience for you and for the kids and the parents, because y'all are all learning something. Those kids are learning about what wins and losses are like, but what is something that a coach learns about during those wins or those losses?
Well, I think part of it is, being able to pick up your phone and call your mentors, call your people, and to be able to, it's tough as a man to share your feelings. It's not the manly thing to do, to share good things, to share bad things that you may be going through. But I've got a lot of really good people that are in my inner circle that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm dealing with this situation. What would be your approach to it, or what would you recommend? People that I trust. And they've always been there, not just there because I'm a first-year head coach. They've been there through the 14 years that I've been a coach. Yeah. And have been exposed to all situations. And there's always situations that come up, and you write it down in the book. And you're like, man, you'll probably never see this again, or you never saw this coming. And then also, serving as a mentor to other young coaches. We believe in coaching coaches. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing is just being able to pick up the phone, and the fraternity of coaches that we have in the state of Alabama. I've got friends that coach in the state of Florida and Georgia, to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm going through this. How would you handle this situation? Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the way, somebody's experienced that before.
Yeah. Well, I know you coach high school. Have you ever thought about coaching in college?
Thought about coaching college when I was given the opportunity to be a grad assistant at Troy, and immediately knew that high school was where I wanted to be. I had such a great impact by my high school head coaches, head coach Spence McCracken, Brian Blackman. He's coaching in college now, retired from coaching in high school. Ben Blackman, who's a head coach at Enterprise High School. He was my quarterback coach. Smitty Grider, grew up best friends with his son when we were younger. And they made such a great impact on me when I was in high school that I said, you know what, one day I want to be just like those guys. Mm-hmm. And really that's the way that it ended up working out. And then after, 2-year trial run, you could say as a grad assistant coach, I knew that high school football was where I felt like I needed to be, to where I could still make a positive impact on young men.
Wow. So, you played in college, what's like the one opponent in your lifetime that you played or you've always wanted to play when you were in college? Did you have an opponent that
well, I was born and raised an Alabama fan. We always joke around that, Troy was kind of the anytime, anywhere, any place team on your schedule that they could go into a place and slip up on a team. We've seen them do it in the past. Yeah. And Alabama's scared to schedule Troy, which I know that's not true. But, Alabama would probably be an opponent that we never played, that if I could play in a stadium, that would be one that I would have loved to play in. But we had some great experience. We played Florida State my freshman year at Troy. That was a great experience. Played LSU twice. Played down in Florida, down in the swamp. And had an opportunity again. I'd never flown in a plane before getting to college. So my first plane flight ever is up to Lincoln, Nebraska. We go and play the Nebraska Cornhuskers, which was a strange environment, sold out environment. They beat us 56-0, and I'm thinking they're going to throw stuff at us as we're walking off the field, and it was the nicest atmosphere I've ever been in my life. So that was strange to me, growing up in SEC country. Yeah. LSU's rocking your bus. Yeah. Florida State, man, they're telling you you're number one with the finger. So going out to Nebraska was a different experience. Going up to Ohio State was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So I got to go to a lot of different places and travel, all over the United States through the game of football. I would say if there's anywhere that besides Alabama, wish I had an opportunity to go probably somewhere out west in California, USC or UCLA, playing the Rose Bowl. There's a lot of history and tradition there.
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's crazy. Just think you've been living a life ultimately, and you keep on living this life. I mean, what's the one thing that you live by, like a quote or like, a saying or a poem?
Yeah, there's several that I love. I think one that's probably my wife's favorite quote that's really grown on me just through our years of marriage. I do not fear tomorrow, for I've seen yesterday and I love today. Understanding that to be present in the moment, be where your feet are for today.
Yeah.
You've seen yesterday and that tomorrow is not promised, so just love today.
Wow. That's incredible. Man, I, getting to know people on a personal level is like, it's a journey because it's like a mirror.
Right.
You're really seeing a lot of yourself in a lot of things. And even when you're coaching, you're seeing that in a lot of kids as well. Because then you're like, I remember like growing up like that.
Right.
I remember seeing that. And I coached like cheer and gymnastics for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So I understand like the mentality that a kid goes through of like the process of it. But then like when you see that, you really see a lot of yourself in that. In that journey itself, do you hope to becoming the best coach or the best man for the job?
I hope that I'm a coach that, with the seniors on the football team for this year's first year as a head coach, that 5, 10, 15, Lord willing, 20 years down the road, that they share with me, pictures of their first child, get an invitation to that wedding. I hope that I have an impact on them to where I get those phone calls and those invitations. Again, we all want to hold the blue trophy at the end of the season. But to me, and again, I've just got such a good grasp on that. I could not explain to you why that it's a lot more than that. There's more meaning and more, processes and thought to it than just that. And again, I made this point earlier. You only get 10 guaranteed opportunities throughout a season. It's the other 42 weeks that I think that really have more meaning and thought to it. What kind of relationship are you building with that player, with that family? We care about them, and I mentioned my wife so much. I mean, we are a team. It's the head coaching team. It's not just one person. And we're invested in thoughts and feelings with our players for when they play for us. And even after that, for years to come. I mean, we've been invited to weddings. I got a young man that I coached my first year at Opelika in 2013. Him and his wife are expecting their first child. So having those impacts on lives, because those things last forever.
Yeah, man.
Alabama Stinger's pretty good.
Oh, dude.
I like
so you've never been to Prevail, have
Shout out Prevail.
Yeah.
It could be a new little sneak away spot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the place. Before I started working there, making coffee, being a barista and stuff, I always spent my time there, like Bible study, or if it was just getting work, I had to get out of the house. And it was during COVID, right? So COVID, like, I could not stay inside. I hated being inside.
Yeah.
I'm such an explorer. I want to go explore. Something that I did recently, I tell this story, and we went to Searcy Hospital. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't.
Okay, Searcy Hospital, it's a mental institution that was shut down in 2012, right?
Okay.
And it's down in Coriola. And me and my buddies, we went down just to see, because they talked about it being haunted.
So it's a condemned place, empty?
Oh yeah. Like, they talk about it because it started in 1825, I believe. And then it was an arsenal for like the military during that time. And then during the Civil War, they brought in Indians and African American slaves to stay there, right? So really bad history all over.
Yeah.
And then in 1902, they turned it into a mental institution, and they didn't know how to do, anything mental for people, like, because what resources did they have?
Correct.
They only had lobotomies and shock therapy, right? Yeah. So, the fact is, Geronimo actually was staying there. And apparently his body is buried there. So when we went there, it's a crazy thing. And this is late at night. This is like on a full moon.
It's got some weird vibes.
Oh, it's the weirdest vibe. It's its own little town. You ever watch The Walking Dead?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's like crazy empty. Like the old building structures, everything that goes around, you're just like, there was so much history to this place since 1825, and nobody knows what to do with it. So we're going in, and I'm going towards like the Rook, like the old original building where Geronimo stayed and everything. And I'm looking up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm not joking when I say this. Believe in ghosts or not, or believe in the spiritual realm, and as Christ followers, we believe that our battles aren't against flesh and blood, but against the principalities of the spiritual realm. I kid you not, there's like a dark area that I'm walking towards. And, my buddies are taking pictures in the back and everything. They're just trying to do that. That's our thing. Because we're trying to get the best pictures of like who can take the best ones. I stop for a moment and I hear something fall. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then how you hear running footsteps when people are running on gravel, you can hear it. It sounded like it was coming closer. Yeah. Like actually somebody running towards me. But there was nothing there. And I was like frozen. I was like, what is this?
Waiting for a loud Geronimo yell or something.
Yeah, I'm waiting for like, are these Indian spirits? Is this something going on, right? And I'm just hearing this, but there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I didn't scream or anything. I just kind of like
took it in.
Nope. I did it. And I go up towards my buddies. I'm like, hey, I heard something. I definitely did. I don't know exactly, but I'm gonna choose peace and joy during this moment, right? And there's a meaning to this story for that. Like, there's a quote from Star Wars, and it's Yoda and Luke, and they're on Dagobah. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's Empire Strikes Back. Yoda tells him, you must go into the cave. And Luke says, well, what's in there? And Yoda says, only what you take with you, right? And so it's going towards those home games or those away games. The mentality of what you're going to bring with your team goes a long way. You could either bring fear or you can bring the joy factor and like the love and camaraderie that you have with your team. Is that something that like you do a lot with your team?
Well, we've been the road warriors this year. Only through 4 games we've been at home twice, but our travel games have been 2 hours and 45 minutes from home to St. Clair County. Almost 3 hours to Pensacola. We'll be an hour away from home this Friday against Charles Henderson down in Troy. So, it is mentality. You pack up and take what you need, but it's also kind of that it's all about us mentality as well. There could be a lot of outside noise or outside voices starting 1 and 3. The only voices that matter are the ones that are in the locker room. We're all we got, if you will. So literally you take what you need to the battle. It's like getting in the cave with the lion, run to the roar. Don't run away from it. And again, that all goes back to the senior leaders that we have on our team, our leadership. We'll go into any foxhole or any battle with those guys, and we feel confident.
Michael Irvin said it best is that like God didn't send Goliath or didn't send David to Goliath. He sent Goliath to David. Because he was trying to show David the mighty warrior that was inside. That's the challenges that we face. We're the giant slayers a lot of times.
And I think part of being not just the head coach, but a coach or a teacher is finding experiences or certain situations to where you can bring out the best of what's in. I think the best teachers, think back to the best teachers that I've had. They figure out certain ways, whether it's through words or techniques or, our old 10th grade math teacher used to call it the meat and potatoes. So what really mattered the most to kind of get you engaged to what really matters, what's most important. Teachers that can find ways to bring those out of their young men or young women or even coaches with their teams. If you can figure out a way to engage with your team and bring out the best version of themselves. In our setting, it's a team setting. There's 11 that's out there at one time. Bring the best version of yourself to battle or to a game, and understand that if you bring your best and we're all at our best, then we got an opportunity to be the best.
But what's it going to take to be the best? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that your team has to sacrifice a lot of times? Because it is 1 and 3, right? But this is the learning curve. for a team, right? There's a lot of things they have to give up in order to take in. You have to replace things. Your old habits, your old structure, and you're putting in a new one. What is that? What does that look like?
What are you willing to sacrifice to be at your best?
Yeah.
You willing to sacrifice time at home on your phone?
Yeah.
You're willing to sacrifice time going out with friends?
Mm-hmm.
I hear this in college all the time from players that are very successful. J.J. McCarthy, I think, starts for the Minnesota Vikings when he was quarterback at Michigan. His sacrifice was going out and partying on the weekends to where he could be at the best version of himself throughout the week so he could play well on Saturday.
Yeah.
What are you willing to sacrifice as a player? And getting them to understand that as they get older, what are they willing to sacrifice as a person so you can be the best version of yourself? Are we going through those trials and things now? Yeah, absolutely. I think you go through and you battle that every single day. I mean, even as a 37-year-old adult, there's things that we must sacrifice. Yeah, I'd love to watch all the college football games on Saturday, but I know that there's a point in time where I have to put all that down to spend time with family or to spend time preparing for our next opponent or spend time recapping on the opponent that we just had. I think that's part of growing up is just sacrificing. It's part of it.
Well, I mean, you're sacrificing at that point because you're sacrificing the party life and all that. But would you think that sacrifice is actually helping, the kids learn like how to be the husband that they need to be, how to be the best business manager, executive, CEO that they can be, or even be a great coach for somebody else, right?
I think it helps your team if you can show them real life examples.
Yeah.
Sacrificing time for me in the fall. There's time that I miss out with family. There's practices in the evenings where I don't get to see my kids. Mm-hmm. So finding time to where my family and our other coaches' families can come up with our team. Mm-hmm. And again, they can see me be a husband and a father.
Yeah.
So showing them like what that really looks like, not just through words or not reading, something out of a book and doing a book study, but actually showing them a real life example of what that looks like.
Yeah. No, that's crazy to think about because a lot of times people deal with the fact that they want happiness, but happiness is just so contained to a certain point that you're trying to break it, right? It's like a drug. How much more can I do? How much more can I get? And when you work in social media marketing, you want that, right? You want the more views, the more likes and everything. I've been in that business for a while now. Or even when you're coaching. When I coached, when one person got to the back handspring, double up to a tuck, and they stick it. And it's like, all right, we're moving up. We're going to get more into it, And that's kind of been the evolution of football too, is that, whoever thought back in the day that you could throw down the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like that was like new and brand new for so many people because football was such a rugby running sport, and it was supposed to teach people like what war was all about. You're teaching men to play
win the battle in the trenches.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about the trenches. It's all about big bodies going against each other. Yeah. Who has the best blocking will win the game. That's ultimately what it is.
Yeah, and I believe things come in circles too. Mm-hmm. You look at the NFL, and it's usually through football. Things start at the top. The NFL. You can even talk about the product, and at what point in time will this name, image, and likeness come to an end? When will we see it? Who knows when that will be? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. But I think once the product in the NFL becomes a bad product, and financially that's affected, they'll have a say of what's happening in college, which will in turn have a say what's happening in high school. But we're not even halfway through that circle now because in the state of Alabama, NIL doesn't exist in high school football.
But they're trying to.
So actually the state representative, Jeremy Gray, is a high school teammate of mine. And I do believe one day it will come.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that, you're ahead of that once it does come. You got to have a plan for it. What are you going to do to help benefit your team, players on your team, for when that time comes, because it will come. And then, to be able to forward think, when will that time come to an end?
Yeah.
You just make sure that you stay ahead of the circle. But back to the point of, you look at the Eagles last year, won the Super Bowl. How'd they win it? Good defensive play.
Yeah.
Having the ability to run the football when they needed to run the football. Patrick Mahomes has been the face of the NFL the past few seasons, and they sacked him 7+ times in that game. So, but the passing And you can even look in baseball, the big home runs and all that we went through that era with the Mark McGuires and the Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds, everybody hitting bombs. That was the excitement for baseball, and then all that's kind of got a gray cloud over it. Mm-hmm. But why was it the excitement for baseball? Yeah. Well, it sold tickets. Yeah. Financially, it's always going to be the big pusher for anything that's happening in the world. And I know we're getting off on a tangent for world views, but it's true, and it will affect the sport that we coach today. Yeah. Youth sports. Mm-hmm. You go to a youth outing, and how many vendors are set up for arm sleeves and headbands and gymnastics leotards and all those things. Why is so much money involved in something where we're just trying to develop the youth of the world? Because at the end of the day, like we've already said, it's about the sport. Mm-hmm. It's about developing the youth, developing them to be better gymnasts or better football players for once they get older, and to see if they have an opportunity to do that for a living one day. Yeah. The percentages are so low for who makes it to the NFL. Mm-hmm. Who stays in the NFL and gets that second and third contract. It's a small percentage. Yeah. So what are you going to do when that day ends? You better have a plan. And for us, that plan is showing them experiences and teaching them life lessons. And I know even through your sport, your coaching, my wife does the same thing through the cheer and gymnastic world. And there are just so many life lessons that you can cover through your sport. So why not use your sport as a vessel to share those things? Right. We believe in that.
Well, the biggest thing that a lot of people seem to deal with is that as human beings, we're so peculiar on the fact that we want to control, we want to have and contain. We become the person with a storage room full of junk that we don't even use, right? And a lot of times that is sports. Like sports, we take it personally. We take it a hold of us because we don't want to lose that. We don't want to lose anything. Like for a quarterback, they want to keep on playing all the way until they're like 50, 60. Right. Brett Favre, right? He kept
myself. I'm the scout team quarterback for our defense.
Oh, wow.
So we have daily competitions of how many times can coach complete the ball against our defense. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really bad.
What are you throwing? You throwing like
every day my arm is sore, my back is sore. Right. So I probably should give it up.
But I don't know. Just keep that going. Yeah. You're not too old.
It makes it fun. They love the competition.
Yeah. That's good. Are you throwing 60 or 70? What are you throwing?
I'm throwing for completions. Short, dinky
safe answer,
down the
right?
field.
Yeah.
Safe answer.
No, but when somebody is good at something versus being called to something, that goes a long way. Take a look. Cam Newton. You can tell that man was called to be a football player. Yeah. Like the structure that he has. And you take a look at his two other brothers. They were good at football. But Cam was called to be a football player, right? Nick Saban was called to be a coach. You can tell versus when somebody else is being good at something. Is that something that you preach to the kids? Is that like, hey, football's not going to be forever. You just have to find your calling a lot of times.
Definitely think that we expose them to that. Not in a negative light, like, oh, you're not going to have a chance because you're not this measurable or you don't run this fast. At the end of the day, if you have make a career out of the NFL, you don't run your 40, which you run it on your pro day timing. So what are you doing to get that second, third contract? Peyton Manning couldn't throw the ball 50 yards, 40 yards down the field, through the back end of his career. What did he do to have such a prolonged career? And there was a lot of mental processing that he had. He was ahead of the game mentally. Tom Brady, you can look at him the same way. Even though he takes phenomenal care of his body, spends millions on his health and diet and all those kind of things. But, we don't use that in a negative way, more of a real way. Yeah. What is your plan once football ends? Yeah. What's life look like for you? How can you make football last forever? What are you doing and even in high school, we've got kids on our team that don't have the measurables. Some games we're undersized. Some games we don't have the fastest kids on the team. Yeah. So where do we get our edge or what's our advantage? You can turn the film on and go, oh, we're not bigger than the other team, so that means we don't have a chance. It's not the way that we look at it. Yeah. What can we do to get an edge or have an advantage in the game? And, through technique, through development, as Conor McGregor says, that, timing beats speed and precision beats power. So, using those words and a lot of it, you could say, is kind of brainwashing a little bit, but sometimes use that as an advantage in any setting.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about it. because a lot of times we want to keep on going, but it's not really about us keeping something. It's about us like being a pipeline. You know, we're supposed to be the next piece to that pipeline to keep that water running through the next generation. Like that's what it's really all about.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, and opportunities always come.
Right.
I remember back in high school, my senior year, you know, I was mainly for, you know, running bases and, you know, occasionally playing the outfield, batting. And I remember that my batting was never good. I was never good. I wanted to go to college, right?
Yeah.
And CAC actually said they wanted to talk to me for that. 2 weeks before the playoffs against Auburn, I sprained both my ankles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And during sliding drills, and I'm just like, crap, like I do this, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to talk to me. You know, I played my last game against Auburn high. I get on base, I'm 1-for-1, and I'm like, hey, you know what? This is actually really nice. I like this, you know? 3 years later, I was given an opportunity, and it wasn't mainly just to play baseball, but it was to spread the gospel. And we went out to Nuremberg, Germany, and we represented America in like a tournament, I think, like, you know, through the churches and through all sorts of stuff. But we got to go out there and, you know, we won the tournament, and I got to play some of the best baseball that I ever had in my life because the opportunity came, you know? And it was like my last hoorah of like, well, I never really got to go play college or in the minors or 3A or anything. But you know what? I actually got to play international baseball, and I actually got to help the community. I actually got to teach baseball to these kids, and I actually got to spread the word, which was so great. And I experienced and I explored more than what I thought I ever could, and it was beautiful, you know? I mean, for you, did you ever have that mindset in your head that I'm always going to be a coach, or did you like have a moment in your life where you're like, I want to keep on playing football?
Well, I knew when football was up for me,
Yeah.
you know, through the end of my career in college. I mean, I didn't have the itch or the bug that some people may have to continue on or to play semi-pro football, because that was kind of around during the end of my college playing career. But knew that I wanted to find my way to still make an impact through the game of football, through coaching, through teaching. And again, all because there were so many people that made an impact on me when I was younger. But I think part of that too is, you know, what are you using at the end of the day? What tool or what trophy do you need at the end of the day to measure success? What is success?
Yeah.
Is success for you holding up the championship trophy at the end of the year? Because if that's what you determine as being successful, then everybody fails but one team or one person. And there's so many things along the way that can determine whether you're successful or not through life, through a season. You know, you may go 10-3, and we were probably a team that was projected to go 5-5. Well, we had a successful year. But if your measuring tool is holding up the state championship trophy at the end of the year, then no, you didn't have a successful year. So it's all about what are you using to determine what's successful or not, you know, through it. And for me, and again, I think I just had a good grip on what that looked like and what that felt like at such an early age, because it always came back to work ethic and just the way that I was raised. You know, put your head down and just go to work, regardless of you get the outcome that you want. And I think outcomes are, you know, again, part of feelings. What are your principles? You sticking to your standards and your principles personally and as a team, and then look at it at the end of the day. If you did that, then you were successful.
Yeah. You know, we talk about the kids, you know, growing up, being men and everything. When you come home and you see your daughters, you see the very best of like yourself and Tiffany in them as well, right? Like, is it a different mindset as a parent, like, versus being a coach? You know, like, I want my kids to be really successful. I want to see their victory. I want to give them the great tools, so every time they fall down, they can get back up with that. You know,
I don't know if we look at it in my household as we want our kids to be the absolute best or to be successful. We want our kids to be prepared. You know, we, as it says in the Bible, prepare the child for the path. I mean, we have no control over what they may be faced with one day. All we can hope and pray for is that we prepare them through experiences, you know, through lessons that they're prepared for the real world. I think at the end of the day, for every American family, it's your child turns 18, they graduate high school, they go to college, or they move out of the house. I think that, my daughters are 26 and 27 and still living at home, and they're probably not successful. We as parents didn't prepare them for the world. You know what I mean? But there's always situations, and I've been through them personally, where you got to call home and have some help, or you got to call home and ask questions. But I would say in our household, how do you take off the hat of being the head football coach of 60 plus young men to coming home and being the dad for 2 girls? And I think it's just about being a leader. Having a good partnership with your spouse, through communication and making sure that, you're both on the same page for what your kids are experiencing and going through things in a daily time span. And when you come home, you can give them the best version of yourself. If we have a bad day at practice, do I need to come home and be the bad head football coach that just left practice? Not at all. My daughters didn't do anything to deserve that, But I also think the good Lord is what Coach Larry Blakeney, who's my college coach, told us, that he's got daughters of his own, that the good Lord blessed him with daughters because he deals with knuckleheads every day. And I feel like I'm kind of in that same boat, and I get the best of both worlds. My oldest daughter's a tomboy a little bit, and she loves sports, and what jersey is she going to get for Christmas, and did Jalen Hurts win on Sunday? We have those kind of conversations. And then my youngest daughter is all about mermaids and princesses, and Dad, can I paint your toenails? So I kind of get the best of both worlds with each of them. But that was my biggest curiosity about being a dad and having multiple children, is what would the personalities be? What would the difference in their personalities? As they got older. And that's the curious part of I think life. Raising kids. Even thinking back as being in high school as a young teenager, what does your wife look like one day, or what does your spouse look like? And I think keeping a curious outlook on life keeps you engaged, keeps that energy there. What helps drive me get up and get out of bed every morning is just that. It's just being curious. What kind of difference can you make in today? And again, I think that kind of goes back to the quote that you asked me about earlier. We love each day. Today is the day. Let's go out and make a difference. So,
well, in closing remarks, is there anything that you want to tell the audience? Like something that you have learned in your life that you just want to let them know, like anything positive that you can tell them?
Yeah, I think through coach speak, every year is a different year. It always brings different outcomes, different experiences. In my 14 years of coaching, there's been something come up, good, bad, and in between, that you've never experienced before. Always fall back on your principles, not about how you feel about it. And then really just as a person, keep a curious eye for what's out there in the world. Be aware of your surroundings. There's so many things that are going on in the world now. That's it's definitely a scary place, but your home, you want to make sure that you have a healthy home, and I feel like our home is a healthy home. I mean, it's not perfect by any means. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes we don't even know what we're having for supper on a given night. It's kind of hit or miss, but I think that's what makes it engaging and fun. And even though I may be that serious person with no emotions on the sideline, at the end of the day, we all like to joke around and have fun with it, and nothing in life is super serious to where you can't engage and make a difference in someone's life. And again, I figured out early on that my calling in life, my why, was doing just that. Having the ability to make a positive difference or have an outcome on somebody's life. That's each day I feel like it's, whether it's the old saying, whether it's the janitor or the CEO, make sure you always say hello or good morning to that person in your workplace. So,
Coach, thank you so much for coming by today and being
enjoyed
here. Dude, hopefully you did enjoy it. This is awesome. Love having you here, man. And listen, hopefully that 3-1 turns into a good 7-3.
There we go.
So good luck for the rest of the season, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.